Hey everyone, it's Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Welcome to the Monster Legends Mythic tier list. So the way this is going to work is that I'm going to break down every single different category of monsters, and for today's Mythic tier list we have the attackers, specifically the extra turners. There are 4 of them. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to review all 4 of them, give you their pros and cons, their advantages, disadvantages, and then I'll give you guys who I think is the number 1 of the extra turners. So as we go through this video, maybe take note of some of the promising factors about specific monsters, and then maybe you can take a guess on who you think is number 1. And so we're going to start off with the first extra turner that got released. Of course, Ra Avis. This is the very first extra turner in the Mythic era. So, we'll have to start with the power. And I'm going to showcase all the monsters at level 100. This monster has a power of 5808. From the 4 extra turners, which are, by the way, Ra, Nightingale, Nor, and Krusty, this is the 2nd highest power. Technically 3rd also because Nor and Nightingale are actually tied for 1st. In terms of the life stat, 50,668. This monster once again takes 2nd place or 3rd place because it's tied with Nor. The highest one belongs to Krusty. And so then we also have the speed stat, 4752. This is tied with that of Nightingale and Krusty. So, I mean, they're all equally fast. When it comes to extra turners, their speed doesn't matter that much. Their job is just to get an attack in. If your allies can make this monster get an attack, then you're good to go. So that's it in terms of stats. Nothing too promising of the 4 monsters, right? Nothing that really stands out. What is interesting about this monster are the Relic Slots. Well, not that interesting, but here, let's actually search the monster. I put them all together. By the way, I'm using Liam's account. Huge shout out to Liam for letting me use your account. So this monster of the 4 extra turners can actually hold the armor relic. So this increases survivability. If we go specifically to the armors, for example, you can do Naboris' armor, which increases the life and gives stamina. So that can be useful, especially in an era where monsters get their stamina drained. Of course, also Morg's armor for additional shield. So yeah, of all of them, this monster can hold the armor. And then just about all of them can hold the sword relic. So we'll quickly go over the swords. With swords, monsters have 2 options. So Cane Sword is one of them, and if it's fully maxed out, this will deal 12,000 points of special damage to all of the enemy monsters twice, and you can recover up to 62k life, so that's pretty amazing. Yeah, if the Cane Sword is completely maxed out. The other option is to loot Laser Beam Sword, which, if it's fully maxed out, will deal 12,000 points of magic damage to all of the enemies once again twice, and at the start of the battle, it actually increases your power by over 5,000 points. It's 5,040 and has 2 uses, so that can be pretty powerful. So yeah, that's it in terms of stats and relics for this monster. Then we need to talk about the traits. And so for trait, this monster is immune to curse at rank 0, which honestly is terrible. At rank 1, you get blind immunity, which is not bad, but it's also not that great. You gotta be worried about the stun, the possession, the freeze. So at least you are protected against total blind. But I mean, considering you're an extra turner, even if you were to get blinded, at least you can just do some extra turn skills and get rid of that blind. But at rank 3, you do get that true vision. So I think it's kind of funny this monster is immune to blind, but they can get true vision. If anything, if you were to get dazed or sunburn, this helps you out. Overall, of all of the extra turners, not my favorite evolving traits. So I wanted to start by talking about the relics and all that. And now we're going to move on to the next monster. The next monster to get released was Nightingale. Nightingale is very, very interesting. And again, I want to showcase the monsters at 100, so just a second. So Nightingale, as I already mentioned, with a power of 5896 of the 4 extra turners, this is the highest power. The life stat, though, 48,256. This is absolutely the lowest life stat of the 4 extra turners. And the speed, like I said, it's tied with Ra and Krusty. So it's funny, strongest attacker, but the weakest life. Like, this monster is very susceptible to getting OTK'd by other enemy monsters, right? Especially some light monsters or monsters with light attacks. But this monster is actually super interesting in the relic slots. It's one of the few monsters that can hold double relics that are the same. In this case, you can hold 2 sword relics. So the amount of stuff you can do are quite insane. For example, you can give this monster maybe 2 laser beam swords, and then you have such a high power at the start of the battle. And when it triggers, it'll trigger twice, so you're dealing 24k damage to all the enemy monsters twice, okay? Or you can do the Cane Sword, and then with the Cane Sword, you can heal if you're damaged. So check this out. Right after damaging the skill, target's life is below, deals damage, so again, it's 24k damage, and you can heal. And when this is fully maxed out, as I already mentioned, you heal 62k life. You would be able to proc that 2 times each. So if you're doing double canes, double laser beam, maybe you can do 1 and 1. You have a lot of flexibility. So even though this monster is very squishy, thanks to being able to hold 2 sword relics and being able to put the cane sword in there, you can kind of heal yourself, so that's not too bad. Now, what is also pretty awesome about this monster are the traits. At rank 0, you have Hardened. Only Nightingale and Krusty have the Hardened trait, which is awesome because it's a 20% less chance to get hit with negative effects. So whereas your Nor and your Raw have to worry about getting stunned, frozen, or possessed, 20% of the time, even if you don't have a denier or someone to protect your monsters, these monsters won't get denied. So you have a 20% higher win rate, the way I would put it, if these monsters get a guaranteed turn in. At rank 1, you get immunity to bleed, which, just like the immunity to curse, not that great. But at rank 3, this monster gets a self-damage increase, making this monster even stronger. Not only does Nightingale have the highest power of the 4 extra turners, you also have a damage increase, and you can hold 2 laser beam sword. The amount of damage this monster can deal is quite insane. I really like this trait. I think for the 4 extra turners, for just an attacker that you want pure brute, pure damage output, and then the harden to protect you, this is a phenomenal trait. And then the next monster, we all know and love this monster. It is Nor, the Team Race monster, so probably the easier monster to get from the 4. So the thing about Nor is that she has a power of 50 and 96. Oh, if I didn't mention it, it's actually tied with that of Nightingale, so both her and Nightingale have the highest power. The life stat is tied with Raw, and then the speech stat of the 4 extra turners is the highest. But again, all the other ones are tied, and the speech stat, I would say, doesn't really matter too much for these monsters. Let's talk about the trait. So, unranked, this monster has blind immunity. At rank 1, you get daze immunity. And then at rank 3, you get the stamina regen. My favorite thing is the status caster stamina regen, because you are an extra turner. There's a lot of relics that can drain stamina. So it's very nice that you have this monster, and even if you attack someone and an oblation strap, a Nabulance trap activates, and you get your stamina drained, hey, it's cool. You have stamina regen, so then maybe you can do your other extra turn skills. So the blind and the daze, I am not the biggest fan of. I mean, if an alien was to attack you and do the blind daze sunburn skill, that would come in handy. But, you know, I'd rather have a hardened, I'd rather have a self-damage boost. So I'm sorry to say that Nor's trait is not one of the better ones, but at least it's not like a bleed immunity or a poison immunity or a curse immunity. I think I'd rather take the blind and the daze immunity. Let's see what else we have. The relic slots. So Nor is actually also very interesting in that you can actually hold the banner relic. Notice this is actually the only extra turner mythic that cannot hold a sword relic. All the other ones can at least hold one sword. But this monster replaces that with a banner and a mask. So we'll start off with a banner because I think it is one of the best relics in the game, period. Specifically, if you have Mr. Beast's banner. At the start of the battle, increases the ally's max stamina by 91 points. If it's fully maxed out, it's 103 points or 130, something like that. So the max stamina is increased. Super useful when there are so many stamina draining relics and stamina draining skills in the game. And when the turn starts, if any ally's stamina is below 25%, you give stamina to all of your allies. So even if you get your stamina drained, your relic can trigger and then you get stamina back. For an extra turner that relies on the stamina to be able to attack, that is absolutely useful. That is amazing. And the cool thing about this monster specifically is that you can even get away with using a gold relic. You can actually get away with using everyone's favorite, which one are you? Right here, the charging banner. When the turn starts, if any ally stamina is below 25%, everyone heals. So again, if imagine yourself being Nor, you attack someone, exhausting mask, stamina drain, doesn't matter. Charging banner kicks in, it kicks in 3 times. It is amazing, it is crazy. Mr. Beast banner is just an upgraded version of the charging banner, so it's great. Like, Nor being able to hold the banner is awesome. Aside from that, you can also hold the mask. So what I like about the mask a lot, here, let's go to Awe. If you have the Jazzstar mask right here, after damaging with a skill, if target stamina is above 75%, removes 153 points of stamina from the damaged enemies and gives stamina to the wearer. So the cool thing about this monster being an extra turner is that you can literally attack one enemy monster, your Jazz mask activates, you attack someone else, it activates again, you attack someone else, it activates again. You basically did 100% stamina drain, depending on how much stamina they have, right? And if there's no relics to trigger, but you can potentially drain the enemy's stamina while recovering your stamina. So even if they drain some of your stamina, once again with an oblation trap, you're good to go. Plus you have your trait at rank 3 to even help you out. And if your trait was to get removed, if your status caster, because it's just a status caster at the end of the day, your stamina regen's gone, you have 2 different relics that can help you with stamina. Now, of course, you don't need to go with that. You could always go with an armor if you want to increase your life a little more, so you have different options. But definitely, I think the banner on Nor is one of the better things about this monster and what makes her stand out compared to the other ones. So far, we've reviewed Nor that can do the banner, we went over Raw, and then Nightingale who can do double sword, which I think is super interesting. Now let's check out Krusty. Alright, Krusty has the lowest power of the bunch, 5632. Yeah, lowest power. Life stat is 53,081. But because this monster has the lowest power, it makes sense that this monster would have the highest life. 53,081. This is the highest life stat of all of the mythics, all the extra turner mythics. And then the speed stat, as I already mentioned, it's tied with that of Ra and Nightingale. So Nor is the fastest. Alright, trait. This monster, as I already mentioned, has the hardened trait. So only this monster and once again, Nightingale, they have the hardened trait, which is stand out for being unranked. At rank 1, you get immunity to ignite and burn. I'm not the biggest fan of that, to be honest. Like, yes, I guess it could help, but really, I would prefer something else. Again, the damage increase on the stamina regen. At rank 3, you get thunder immunity, which honestly would help you out in a thunder battle, considering you're a water monster. But it's not something that is like super useful, right? If you battle in a war, you're probably going to be in the sea books, a water war. So you're probably not going to fight a thunder monster, just depending on the situation. So from all the evolving traits, I'm also not a big fan of this one. I just do like that it has hardened. That's my favorite thing about it. But really, I'm not a fan of the traits overall. Alright, now let's look at the relic slots for this monster. So this monster can also hold the banner. So just like Nor, they can both do banner. But unlike this monster being able to hold a mask relic, this monster can actually do the sword relic. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. If you have Mr. Beast's banner, you don't have to worry about stamina. And then if you have a sword, you can either increase the power with laser beam sword or increase survivability with cane sword and being able to recover life. So good relic slots. You get the best of both worlds there. So overall, it's hard to say who wins the best relic competition because like if you're after damage output, you want Nightingale with the double sword relics. If you want a nice healthy balance, I would say Krusty provides the good balance with the sword and the banner. With your Nor, you have more advantages for the stamina draining, being able to hold the mask and the banner, and again, being unique in that it is the only monster that doesn't have a sword. And then in terms of stats, just a really quick recap, the monsters with the highest power are Nor and Nightingale. These two monsters share the highest power stat for the extra turners. The monster with the highest life stat is Krusty, and the monster with the highest speed stats is Nor. So technically overall Nor wins in the stat category because you have the highest power and you have the highest speed stats. And trait wise, this one is hard, but I think I would give it to Nightingale because as an extra turner you want to deal as much damage as you can, and I think having the hardened trait just helps you not get hit with negative effects. So no accuracy reduction, no dot that is going to kill you, and of course, potentially 20% of the time you don't get hit with the enemy's denial because you can't always protect your monster, so that's amazing. And then at rank 3, that self-damage boost, you get even stronger. And then in second place, I would probably give it to Nor for the stamina regen. Again, I'm not a fan of the blind and daze, but the stamina regen is useful. So even if you don't have the fancy relics, hey, your stamina regen status caster could help you out. Then it would probably have to go to Krusty just for having hardened, and then in last place would be Ra. The True Vision could come in handy, but that's really about it. All right, now for the fun part. Now to talk skills. So of course we'll start with Nightingale. So Nightingale can do up to 4 attacks in a single turn. Just about all the extra turners can, with the exception of Krusty, but we'll talk about him later on. So Nightingale has Cutting Feather, deals low special damage 1 extra turn, 34 stamina cost, 1 turn cooldown. We also have this skill, Twilight Wings, deals moderate special damage to one enemy, gives 1 extra turn, 33 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, and those are your extra turn skills. But the reason you can cycle is because you do Cutting Feather, then you do Twilight Wings, then you do Cutting Feather again, then you do another attack, right? And the cool thing about this is that when it is your next turn, because Cutting Feather has a 1 turn cooldown, you can start your cycle over again. Wait, 1, 3, 1, do another attack. Well, actually, we'll test out right now. In terms of other skills you do have a 0 cooldown skill, which is almost a must now with all the cooldown activation monsters that are released. So monsters that can do something with a 0 cooldown skill is great. This monster has Dream with Freddy. It is a heavy dark damage attack. This monster has a 50 damage attack with this skill, whereas you can't really say the same about the other ones. And then you also have this X Scratch, deals moderate dark damage. But one reason this is on a huge advantage with Nightingale is the fact that Daedalus is a common monster you see on defense. Daedalus is earth-based, so Nightingale actually has an elemental advantage. So, once again, this monster can hold 2 laser beam sword. At rank 3, you get a damage increase at the start of the battle, and then you even have an elemental advantage over the Megaton monster. Like, it's crazy. So maybe even a hero in my own way might be able to take down a Daedalus with the proper relics in that setup. So, in terms of damage output, Nightingale is by far one of the best. If you want a self skill, you also have Body Acceleration, which cleanses on yourself and gives you stamina regen, but most of the time you really won't be running it. Most of the time you're just going after that raw damage outputs. Alright, and so I'm bringing this monster into Adventure Map to show you guys this cycle. So you start things off with Cutting Feather. That is attack number 1. You do Twilight, and in this case it is going to kill. That is attack number 2. You can do Cutting Feather again. That is attack number 3. And then I can end off with an AoE skill or single target. In this case, let me just single target. There we go. And by the way, that also does a Nightmares. Alright, and then it is my turn again. Once again, I can do Cutting Feather. And then, yeah, I can start the cycle over again. So I can do 3 attacks again, 4 attacks again. So yeah, in terms of psych ability, you have 4 attacks to use with Nightingale. Alright, next we're going to talk about Ra. And I realized I was actually supposed to talk about this monster first, but that's okay. So Ra is actually pretty unique in that... well, let's just talk about her skills. You'll notice one thing that stands out right away is the stamina cost on this monster are by far the lowest you're going to see from the extra turners. Like, I am amazed. 13, 16, 22, so that's something worthwhile. You have Obvious Dash, 13 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, deals moderate magic damage to an enemy. You also have Fairy Assault, deals low magic damage to an enemy, applies magic weakness to an enemy, and 1 extra turn. So the advantage with Ra, even though you have magic-based attacks, is that you can target one monster and specifically give it magic weakness. Alright, and then in terms of a 0 cooldown skill, you have No More Lonely. It's not as strong as Nightingale's attack, but that's okay. You deal moderate magic damage and only a 22 stamina cost, whereas with Nightingale it was like 49 stamina. You have an AoE skill, deals low magic damage and applies bleeding, so you can literally Fairy Assault someone. Well, the cycle would be dash, Fairy Assault someone, dash someone else. Oh, sorry, let me make sure the cycle's right. 3 turns, 1 turn. Oh wait, no, this monster is actually only able to do a 3 attack cycle. So unlike Nightingale, once again, Ra was the first extra turner. This monster can only do 3 attack cycles. So you would probably do Fairy Assault on turn 1, and then dash, and then maybe an AoE, maybe single target. It really depends if you need to take out a single target or if you need to take out a Megataunt. Now the advantage Ra has, kind of how like Nightingale has the elemental advantage, with Ra you can do Fairy Assault and then do Red Feathers, and that'll probably kill the Daedalus because it'll have that magic weakness and then that triple damage. In terms of your self skill, you have Go Wild, which applies a damage boost and precision. I prefer Body Acceleration Nightingale, which gets rid of negative effects. You know, you want to cleanse. You also have a special based AoE skill if you want to run that instead. And then you also have a heavy single target attack if you want to run that over, say, No More Lonely. But again, it's almost crucial that you run a 0 cooldown skill. I guess it really depends on the specific situation. If there's an enemy that you know can activate your cooldowns, that's when you wanna make sure you run a 0 cooldown for those situations. Alright, so now we're gonna try Ra and the cycling with Ra. So first turn Fairy Assault. So notice how it is weak against 2 of the monsters, but I do Fairy Assault and now you have the magic weakness, so now when I do my dash, it's actually strong. So that is the advantage, right? You can pick out a single monster and just target that monster. Notice I have that true vision, so I'm not missing any of my attacks. And then for that last attack, if I have the heavy target, I can run that. If I have an AoE, I can just wipe out everyone with an AoE, also apply bleeding. Let me just do No More Lonely in this case. Alright, there we go. And then check this out here, I'll times 4. And okay, so once again, okay, so the issue with this monster though, see we ran into an issue, the cooldown. So, because it's a 3 turn cooldown, well, you're going to have to wait another turn before being able to do your attacks again. So here, I'll do No More Lonely, and because I happen to go twice in the turn order, then I can start my cycle again. But this monster's biggest disadvantage, and again, maybe because this was the first extra turner, is that you have to wait before cycling again. So this monster can only do 3 attacks, and then you're going to have to wait before you can do those 3 attacks, whereas what we saw with Nightingale is you do a 4 attack cycle, and next turn, if you have the stamina, you can start doing that 4 attack cycle. But the magic weakness on this monster is unique, and the super low stamina cost is as well. And of course, the next monster to review is Noor. Alright, we'll start things off. The interesting thing about Noor is the attacks are physical attacks, whereas all the other monsters had elemental attacks. This is primarily physical, the only exception really being your AoE skill, Toxic, which is an AoE poison skill. But other than that, or you also have an AoE day skill if you prefer. But most people, again, you're just going after raw damage output and anything that can harm the enemy, so in this case poison. Although the days, you shouldn't really count that out, as that can reduce accuracy on the enemy and maybe they'll miss the attacks. But going on to the extra turns, so this monster has 2 extra turn skills, but because of the low cooldown, a 1 turn cooldown on this skill, you can actually cycle up to 4 attacks in a single turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, so you'll do Psychen on turn 1, then Nuck, then Psychen again, and then you finish off with a strong AoE skill, or maybe you just single target. So 4 cycles on this monster, and again, because of the 1 turn cooldown, on your next turn, you can probably do like 2 more attacks. Again, we will test. The other thing that stands out about this monster is the fact that you have this massive physical attack. Yes, it has a fortune cooldown, but it is massive damage. None of the extra turners have a skill that deals this much damage. So going back to Nightingale, who is the strongest monster with the highest power, can hold 2 laser beam sword, has a self-damage boost. Again, this monster has a massive physical, so who deals the most damage, you would have to really test, but you cannot discount how strong this skill is. Even if it's a tanky monster, the fact that you can wear it down with 3 attacks and then boom, you know, land that final punch. You also have a moderate physical attack. So the advantage of having physical based attacks is that there's no elemental disadvantage, right? Only really Raw, being able to apply magic weakness, is able to kind of compensate for that elemental disadvantage. Another thing about this monster is the self skill, kind of like Nightingale's body acceleration, cleanses negative effects, which is awesome, and then you get life regen and stamina regen. And it's useful because both stamina and regen, they give you stamina and life every time you get a turn in, and this is an extra turner. So that's really good. And again, if you do want elemental attacks, you have Cobra shots and you have the toxic. But another cool thing about this monster's extra turn skills is that one of them applies daze and one of them does bleeding. So, for example, Psykin, you can daze an enemy monster, you can give an enemy monster bleeding, maybe the attacker, to reduce the damage output, and then it also reduces damage. It reduces damage output by 20%, and then you can do daze on that attacker, and now their power is reduced by 25%, and they're dazed. So this is also unique in that you apply effects with your extra turn skills, and like I said, then you end it off with a strong attack. And then in an era of 0 cooldown, you also have Endless Endurance, which actually costs no stamina. So yes, it's nice that Ra and Nightingale had a 0 cooldown skill, and yeah, Ra's 0 cooldown skill was a low stamina, Nightingale's was a little on the higher end with 49, but this also deals heavy damage like Nightingale, but it is no stamina. So even if you get your stamina drained, you're fine. You have an attack you can do. And then again, you're immune to cooldown activation. So this is awesome. I think this is like almost a must depending on the situation. Now, once again, Nor is the monster that has a lot of relics you can use to not worry about stamina. We're going to play test it with Mr. Beast Banner and the mask, so you can kind of see what I mean. But yeah, Nor, in terms of the skills, they're definitely some really elite skills. Alright, and I'm actually going to take on the Nemesis bases just so you can see how like devastating the relics can be. So, of course, the first skill you do is Psykin, and oh yeah, I have high runes, but it's fine. We will go ahead and attack. So, attack number 1. Alright, it also dazes. We will do my other attack. This one also applies bleed. And then once again, you can do your other attack, and that is 3 attacks. And maybe I should do something that has 2 waves. I think that'll maybe be a better showcase. What is it? Maybe this one right here, or one of the boss battles. We'll do a boss battle. Perfect. All right. So once again, to showcase Nor, Mr. Beast Banner kicks in. Already, I have a high stamina, 371. So we'll do Psychic on turn 1. Boom. And dazed. Jazz Mask kicked in. See, this is what I mean, where with your mask, you can drain enemy stamina. Look, I got my stamina drained, but that's fine because thanks to Mr. Beast Banner and my status cast at the start of the battle, I am free to do my attacks. I will do my next one. I'll kill Sammy. There we go. I can do Psykin again. There we go. And then I can finish off with a strong attack, but it has a fortune cooldown, so I want to save it. This is the AoE skill. Remember, I could also do Endless Endurance if I had it, but for now we'll do the AoE skill. And then, let's say it's another turn. I can do Psykin again. So there we go. And then I can do my other turn again, and I can do Psychic again. So yeah, this monster can cycle 4 attacks consecutively as long as you have the stamina, and having the stamina is not a problem for this monster. Look, I'm getting my stamina drained, Mr. Beast Banner kicks in, I have stamina again, and KO. So, speaking of KO, we'll talk about alts at the end of the video. And then, of course, we need to talk about our last extra turner, Krusty. And I gotta say, he is the most unique in terms of the skill set. He introduces a mechanic that we rarely ever see, but this monster introduces it pretty well, and that is the reverse healing mechanic. So, you'll notice his stamina costs are on the higher end, the cooldowns are also on the higher end, but again, he has reverse healing, deals heavy physical damage, so just like Nor, we have physical, but this monster also has more water-based attacks, so reverse healing. So, the reason this is actually really good is because you see some of those relics that trigger, and the enemy monster heals by a lot. If you do reverse healing, well then, it's going to work against them. So you can plan the attack so that you attack a monster for the relic to kick in, and then the relic actually ends up killing the monster. It's genius, right? It's so smart. So Trick is your reverse healing skill. Another interesting thing about this monster is this Bermuda Mystery skill, another extra turn skill. Also high cooldown, fortune cooldown. This one applies a random torture to yourself. The bad thing about this skill is the fact that random torture to yourself, if it's a shock, you're going to lose access to your extra turn skills. If not for Bermuda Mystery, you can actually attack up to 5 attacks in a single turn, which is also unique because the other monsters can only do up to 4. But if you do these 5 attacks, you also are not going to be able to do anything next turn, so I'll demonstrate that right now. And then we have, so this skill heals itself by 30%, and it also heals the enemy. The reason this is good is because if you first activate this and reverse healing an enemy monster, then this essentially becomes a 30% guaranteed take away life from the enemy. So that can be the final touch, right? Especially if you're someone that doesn't have high runes. If you don't have super high strength runes, you might get away with this mechanic, reverse healing, and then just 30% healing the enemy. The bad thing about this is if you don't have reverse healing, if the reverse healing didn't land, at the end of the day, it's a negative effect that needs to land, then maybe you just have a skill that heals the enemy, and that would suck. This also removes negative effects from itself, which is nice. So whatever you got from Bermuda Mystery, you know, maybe you do this skill last. That way you can cleanse whatever torture you gave yourself. And this is your other extra turn skill, Dance, 2 turn cooldown, low physical damage. So the cycle for this would be, you start off with Dance, you do Trick, and then you do Mystery, and then you can do Dance again if the Bermuda Mystery didn't stop you, and then you can end off with Parlay. The bad thing is you're going to get hit with torture effects twice, and the next turn you're not going to be able to do anything, which again I will demonstrate. But you also have a skill that does water weakness to the enemies. You have a 1 turn cooldown 25 drowned, which you could replace with Parlay if you don't want to risk having that 30% skill. And by the way, the 30% heal also comes in handy for the damage you take from the torture, if I didn't mention that. Sharing the spoils, so your self skill gives you double damage and double healing to the enemy. So going back to what I said about using the enemy's relics to work against them, maybe you do Trick, and you know the relic is going to trigger, and maybe they're going to heal by 50k because of their relic. You purposely give the monster double healing. Double healing is a guaranteed land. It's a positive effect. So if reverse healing landed on the enemy, and then you give double healing to the enemy, instead of losing 50k when the relic triggers, they lose 100k. So phenomenal mechanic. Maybe we'll be able to playtest it. And then you also have a 0 cooldown, 0 stamina skill. It is nowhere near as strong as Nor's. Right, it's just low water damage. Advantage here is elemental advantage against fire monsters. But yeah, it is weak, but at least you have one. But realistically, I don't think you would run it. So yeah, advantages is you have physical and a water-based. But that water-based attack, you have an elemental advantage against fire. But it could potentially harm you. Alright, time to showcase Krusty. And we might do multiple because again, his skill set, he is by far the most unique. So we will start off with the 2 turn cooldown skill. So Dance. Alright, that is attack number 1. We will reverse healing. That is attack number 2, and this is where we're going to do Mystery, elemental advantage against fire monsters. There we go. I gave myself Sunburn. Bad thing about Sunburn is my accuracy is also reduced. Oh, by the way, if you give yourself Bleeding and Poison, your damage output is reduced. So there is a bad side to Mystery, right? And again, I can do Dance, so this monster has already done 4 attacks, and then you end off with your 5th attack. Now in this case, who has the reverse healing? You do, so I parlay against him, and look, 30% guaranteed. But going back to what I was saying, watch, when my monster gets a churn in, look what's going to happen. Assuming he doesn't get denied, explosive bug, perfect. Look, I can't do anything. Why? Because when I use my 5 attack cycle, which is unique to this monster, well, I have to wait because of the cooldowns on the skills, unless I run the 1 turn cooldown skill, which is an option, but then you're just left with 1 turn cooldown skill. On your next turn, you can go back to cycling. So I can do Dance again, I can do the reverse healing again, I can do Bermuda Mystery. Let's see what I get this time. Oh, by the way, it could miss thanks to the hardened trait. So 20% of the time, Bermuda Mystery will miss against you. I can do Dance again, and then I can parlay, and watch, I heal, and then he dies because it's a reverse healing mechanic. And here, let's do this. Let's recharge, and Mr. Beast banner kick in. But again, I can't do anything because when I waste the 5 cycles, when I do my 5 attacks, I'm forced to do nothing. So we'll Dance, and here, let's just do Mystery. So Nanovirus, now I can't get positive effects. Here we'll do Trick, and again we can just end off with the parlay and reverse healing. So reverse healing mechanics, super interesting. Okay, now let's see if we can pull this off. I specifically tried to find a monster that has some sort of healing relic. So here we have Yamada's sentence. After being damaged by a skill, if any ally's life is below 50%, heals targets by 14,000 points. So we're gonna start off with Trick. Alright, check that out. And it missed. Again, it has to land. That's a bad thing, so we'll try again. And these monsters have Bulwark, so maybe it'll be missing for a while. Let's do Trick. And reverse healing missed again. Keep in mind, again, these monsters have Bulwark, not hardened or tough as you'll normally see, because I don't think we'll be seeing Bulwark for a while. Alright, reverse healing landed successfully. Now, I decided to run Sharing the Spoils, which gives double healing. But before I do that, let me do Dance for a little more damage. And are you below 50% after being damaged? I don't think you are. Parlay will take it down. So let me just do Parlay real quick. Alright, now the bad thing is, if it gets cleansed, right, like it did right now, well then, if I was to do the double healing skill, the monster would basically just have a free double healing. So sharing the spoils, and see, I just wanted to showcase that sharing the spoils does always land. Maybe I should have done dance. Maybe I can give this monster a buff, because right now it doesn't have any runes. Alright, now we just gotta hope that it actually lands. Alright, let's do dance, and then trick this time. And nope, it missed. And look, they both triggered, so that is gonna be awesome. Alright, let's click fight. And once again, let's do dance, and trick, and it missed again. Oh my gosh, I only have like 2 more attacks. Please do not miss. Alright, bad thing about the reverse healing, right? But again, this is against a Bulwark monster. So we'll do dance, and let's hope it lands. Trick, and it missed again. But notice, all that healing, where you go back to 100% life, that would just be death. That's what would happen. We'll try it again. Maybe I should have brought a monster that can do like True Vision, like a Charizard. Alright, we'll do dance, and trick, and reverse healing, and watch. Yamada's Essence, minus, Nabota's Armor, minus, and I basically killed the monster just by using the reverse healing mechanic. Alright, so now that you've seen all the skills, in my personal opinion, I would have to say that Nor takes it in terms of the skills. Endless Endurance is almost a must, depending on the monster you're facing. The fact that you have a massive physical attack, and the fact that you can 4 attack turn cycle, while also being able to apply Daze and Bleeding, that is overwhelmingly powerful. In second place, I really don't know who I would give it to. Part of me wants to give it to Nightingale, but part of that is supplemented by the trait and the relic slots and everything you can hold. I also am a big fan of Krusty, but I also feel like the mechanics are so interesting that they may not work, and I'm not a fan too much of how the Bermuda Mystery can work against you, reducing your accuracy, reducing damage output, reducing, or maybe just shocking you and you're losing your extra turn skills. And I don't like that if you do the 5 attack cycle, you basically miss out. Now, you don't have to do the 5 attack cycle, right? You can do 2, you can still do 4 or 3, so that way you have more stuff to do on the next turn. But yeah, in second place, I might have to give it to Nightingale and then Krusty. And honestly, I would give Ra takes it last. I think it's just because she was the first one released that it's not that impressive to me. So yeah, I would say Nor takes it for the attacks. The last thing we got to talk about are the alts. And so I will start with Ra. Alright, skills and Fierce Wings. Removes positive effects from one enemy, deals massive magic damage to an enemy, applies stun to all enemies. So you're basically going to guarantee to kill an enemy monster, even if they had evasion, because you remove positive effects. You single target that monster, massive damage, and then the allies get stunned. Alright, cool. Let's go on to Nightingale. Nightingale has Moon Jump. Deals heavy physical damage to all enemies. So here's an AoE damage, and everyone gets stunned. So I like this because you're attacking everyone, and everyone you're stunning. So it's very similar to Ra's, except Ra's advantage, even though in that it's single target attack, you remove positive effects. Then we have Nor. You might be familiar with this one. KO, KO, KO. It is literally an immediate death to an enemy monster. So if the enemy monster is not immune to death, right? Instant kill. I mean, come on. Literally, maybe you do Psykin, and then you get your ult, and you're like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother attacking. Let me just ult you. And the enemy monster dies. So that is great. Yeah, it's not an AoE, but it is that single target. So if you want to, you can even finish your extra turns, and then you end with that, right? And then last but not least, we have good old Krusty. We have Maelstrom. Deals insane water damage. Insane. This is super, super powerful. The strongest, right? Insane water damage. On top of that, you drowned, you shock, and you stun. Phenomenal ultimate. As much as I like KO, 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 you can't knock down on that water insane damage. On top of that, drowning, shock, and AoE stunning, which basically everyone but Nor also did AoE stun. As much as I like KO, I would give the ultimate to Krusty. I think Krusty takes it in the ult. Followed by, I would just say Nor, to be honest. I love the single target rather than the AoE stuns or the single target stun. But I also like the positive effect removal if the enemy does have positive effects, right? If they do have an evasion or something. With Mythic, you don't really got to worry about that. It's not like everyone's applying evasion to their team or anything. So yeah, with that being said, I think the clear winner of the extra turner Mythic monsters is Nor. Overall, I would say Nor is number 1. She takes it. In second place, I am actually going to give it to Nightingale. I think it's between Krusty and Nightingale. And I think Nightingale, just the raw damage output. I mean, there's some situations in which Nor will not OTK, but Nightingale, if you double laser beam sword, thanks to your status caster, even if you cool down activation, you can do Dream with Freddy, and this kill will probably OTK Mythic monsters. Definitely will kill Earth monsters, but yeah, just a double laser beam sword, triggering, dealing extra 24k damage with the damage boost at the start. it's way better than Nor's Massive. So for that reason, though, overall, I'm taking everything into consideration. Nor takes it with number 1. I'd rather have the banner. I know stamina drain is such a huge issue. I'd rather have that. But yeah, like, see, if you got stamina drain, you wouldn't even be able to do Dream with Freddy. So Nightingale takes 2nd place. I would give Krusty 3rd place, and then the first mythic that got released, Extra Turner, Raw, I would give this last place. So guys, what do you guys think about the tier list for the Extra Turner monsters? Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Any thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I am really looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on who you think is the best Extra Turner mythic. Thank you guys very much. This video took a lot of time. So again, I don't normally ask, but I would really appreciate if you do put a like on this video, because I literally went through the whole monster sheets. I compared and contrasted everything. Huge shout out once again to Liam for letting me use your account so I can showcase all the monsters and their extra turns and everything. So if you like this format, also let me know so I can do more of these. Let me know if you want to see top monsters, deny monsters, support monsters, anything at all. Please let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you guys very much, and remember to subscribe.